Good morning, and welcome to Morning Brew on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes. It is Tuesday, the 27th of August 2024, and Oasis have reformed, and they're playing some gigs next year. So that's the main story on the BBC this morning, in case you missed it. We've got, I just want to say a big hello to everyone in the chat. We've got Sisk and Edge in there, we've got Johan, we've got Power to the People. We've got Billy Kershaw, Stephanie Wilson, Daniel asking who let the dogs out. Uwe Put saying morning everyone. We've got Johan saying it's got to fight its way through the excrement first. Said Jan. I don't know what you're talking about there, mate. But Simon's in there. Paul. We've got Scott in there as well saying good morning, y'all. If you'd like to join the chat, it's very simple. Just subscribe to the channel. That's all you need to do, and then wait for about 30 seconds, a minute, and you should be able to. Chat, join the chat, but please be respectful, obviously, because unless it's about Suella Braverman, who was weirdly took over James O'Brien's slot again yesterday, I guess because it was the bank holiday, and they thought, who should we get to, replace this guy who's seen as the liberal voice of Britain in many ways on the radio, the famous Remainer, James O'Brien, James O'Boring, James O'Brexit, and they thought Suella Braverman went down so well last time, let's get her on again, and she was worse than last time. She actually went ahead and equated the people who went out after 3 little girls were murdered in Southport and terrorised the community in Southport, took bricks and stones from people's homes, from their walls, and threw them at the police. This was a community that was in shock, that was grieving, and a bunch of Nigel Farage's thugs turned up and started throwing this stuff at the police, while the children in that community who had been utterly traumatised were cowering in their bedrooms, crying their eyes out, asking mummy to make it stop. She equated them with the people protesting against what's happening in Gaza. She said, oh, they're exactly the same. There's no difference. There's no difference at all. No difference between the people who literally burned down a Citizens Vice Bureau, burned down a library in Liverpool, and tried to burn down a hotel with women and children in it, with people protesting Israel's illegal incursion into the Gaza Strip and the 40,000 people who have subsequently died as a result of that conflict. Completely the same. In her mind, she sees those as equal. Violence perpetrated against innocent communities versus a peaceful protest, in which some people might chant things that aren't very nice. I get that. I get that it's upsetting for people who are Israeli or people from the Jewish community even, who are upset by some of the things that are chanted at these marches. And it might make Jewish people feel uncomfortable. I get that. I do, right? I'm not trying to belittle that. I'm not saying that, all of these marches for Gaza have been wonderful. Some of them haven't. Yet none of them, not a single one, has burned down a library. Not a single one has tried to set fire to a building that had Israelis in it, or Jews in it, for that matter. That didn't happen. But in Suella Braverman's mind, no, that's the same. So this woman, who's still an elected MP, unbelievably, she won her election, she's still an MP. She's going on the radio to espouse this kind of, I don't know, a false equivalence. That's it. To do this false equivalence of these protesters are just as bad as these protesters. And we talked about this a lot, didn't we, when we were talking about the sentences handed out to the JSO protesters who were organising this protest, and they were given 4 and 5 year sentences. And we said at the time, that was incredibly harsh. That was really insane. That was the legal process, and they were made an example of. Let's make no bones about it. They were totally made examples of. And yet people are saying, but how come people who attacked the police in Manchester Airport, how come they haven't been put in jail, and these people protesting have 2-tier justice? Like, no, the people who in the riots who were banged to rights, the guy in Lush with with the St. George Cross shirt on, they pleaded guilty, didn't need to go to trial. They said, yeah, we did that, and then sentences can happen quite quickly. The glut in the legal system is people saying not guilty, and then it has to go to trial. The CPS has to prepare a case. The defence attorneys, the defence lawyers, the defence solicitors must create a defence to say, no, they didn't do it, and here's the reasons why they didn't do it. Here's why my client is innocent, and that's their job. All that doesn't need to go ahead if they plead guilty. So, but having to explain this to people again and again and again is so frustrating. It's like the difference between legal immigration, where we invite people to come here to do jobs, to do work. People come on a work visa and overstay their visa, which is the vast majority of legal migration into this country, and people coming across on boats. The people coming across on the boats is a small percentage of the people coming here to work. And yet they get conflated. It's all the same to a lot of people. Oh, they're just people from other countries. Doesn't matter if they come on a boat or on a private jet. They're someone from another country. Oh no, hang on. If they come on a private jet, that's completely separate. That's completely different. But the weird thing is, what is going on with LBC? And I'd like to talk about this for a moment because I'd like to get your opinion on this. So I'm going to read your messages in the chat in a moment. What's going on? What's going on? Marvin Gaye. The LBC is owned by privately educated, of course, a millionaire, born into money, who is very pro-Israel, is quite right-wing in their own political opinions, from what we can glean, and seems to be a bit shocked that at a time when Katie Hopkins and Nigel Farage were on LBC, that James O'Brien's radio show started doing really, really well. And then they were like, oh, maybe we should get some more progressive voices on this channel. And they got Sangeeta Maiska, who then had to be gotten rid of because she interviewed an Israeli ambassador too harshly or something. We don't know. No one said. NDAs have been signed. Nothing can be confirmed or denied. It's a bit of a worry. And it does seem like the LBC like to hold up James O'Brien as a bit of a talisman and say, look, we're on the side of the woke. But they're not, are they? Because let's face it, over half of the presenters on LBC, including Ali Mirage, Tom Swarbrick, James O'Brien himself, Vanessa Feltz, they're all privately educated. In fact, 60% of the presenters on LBC are privately educated. And people who go to private school tend to be Tories because they're rich and they like their money and they don't want to have to share it with anyone. Johnny Copperhead, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. I didn't miss that. Thank you very much. He says, welcome to the Daily Fash with Cruella Goebbels. That's not very nice. Oh, you're not talking about me. Oh, yeah, you're talking about LBC. Okay, yeah. That's fair enough. I realise my lighting is just a bit sinister at the moment. Can I just move these lights a little bit so I look a little less like... so I look a little less shaded down one side. Who let the dogs out? Well, indeed, draconic. They're immigrants. They're not immigrants. They're settlers. A. Thompson. Indeed, yes. They're colonisers. They're setting up a colony in other places in the world, which is something that British used to do. The British did. The British did everywhere. Literally everywhere. You couldn't literally sail anywhere in the world without bumping into a British colony. Sometimes there'll be a British colony that nobody knew about, like in Belize, which was British Honduras at the time. It was like, oh, what is this British colony doing here? We didn't know you were here. And like, yeah, Guyana. The same thing happened. Oh, there was a colony here? No one told us. It happened. It happened a lot. Viv Burgess, Braverman forgets that she is of immigrant stock and how many Brits emigrate abroad. That's okay if we do it, apparently. Well, they try and make Britain so bad that people emigrate, don't they? That's what they want. They want people to leave. That's one of the things on their agenda, wasn't they? Feltz was at Nazi fascists' birthday party, Nigel Farage's birthday party. That doesn't surprise me. All the private school mafia, like, they all look out for each other. I mean, it's people. I didn't want to call it a network because it's not the same as sort of having a network, but it's all like, you know the way in India, okay? I don't want to denigrate anyone who's watching this from India, anyone who's of Indian descent watching this, but there's a thing in India called the caste system, right? And to someone who's not Indian, it's indecipherable. Like you can't tell by looking at someone whether they are this part of the caste system or that part of the caste system. But people in India can. They can tell straight away. And I guess it's the same with the class system in the UK. You can very quickly tell people's class. And when it comes to the private school people, I think they can all just recognise each other. I don't know if it's a secret handshake or there's a wink, the nod, whatever, but there is something that means that all of the producers producing the shows and the people who decide who the casting directors are, and the casting directors, and then they choose who the actors are going to be, the directors of the films, everything else, they all went to private schools. Like, it is phenomenal how many people in the arts in the UK, look at the film industry, acting, art in general. Like, if you want to be an artist, so name me a couple of artists in this country. Okay, Anthony Gormley, privately educated. Banksy, privately educated. Do you think if Banksy wasn't a white, privately educated lad from Bristol, he wouldn't be in jail right now? It's worth thinking about. Anyway, so I'm going to look into your chat here. Vanessa is definitely not woke, indeed. It's not illegal to come to the UK by small boat. It's a requirement of the Home Office to be in the UK before you can apply for asylum. Brian McGurk there in just a few words summing up something that I think a vast number of British people have trouble getting their heads around. And I hate it when you hear this expression, jumped the queue. They jumped the queue. Like, do you think Braverman's mum and dad queued up to get into the UK from Uganda? No, they didn't. They just left. They just came here because they could. There was no queue. There is no queue. There's no queue to jump. Literally, you cannot claim asylum here now. The way things are, you can't claim asylum here unless you set foot on British soil or you're from Ukraine. And there's a system so Ukrainians can apply for asylum in the UK without actually having to be here, but there isn't that same offering to anyone else from anywhere else in the world. You've got to wonder about the sort of race dynamics of all this, of like, oh, okay, so it's all right for the white people to just apply where they are, so they might be in Ukraine when they apply. The refugees who came to stay with us, they got out of Mariupol in Ukraine, and they were in Lviv, and they applied for asylum in this country from Lviv, and as soon as it was granted, we got them over to Poland and then flew them to the UK, and they came on an EasyJet flight. It's as simple as that. Like, that's how it should be. You can apply. It can be a ball ache to apply. Can I talk to you about it being a ball ache to apply for things? Can we just talk about this for a moment? I'll come back to your message in a moment, because we've had a stupid idea, and the stupid idea is this, that a few of us influencers should be... I'm not an influencer. YouTubers should be in America for the American election. I was going to do a 48-hour stream challenge. I was hoping to get YouTube on board for it, but YouTube said, it's political. We can't do political streaming things. We can't be political. And I'm like, doesn't stop Twitter being political. Or Facebook when it's allowing Cambridge Analytica to run wild, but whatever. So what we're thinking of going to New York for a few days over the election. So it'll be like the election's on November the 5th. So as I have been to one of the 10 countries that you're not allowed to go to if you ever want to get an ESTA ever again in your life, which is the travel visa waiver, the electronic travel authorization to go to America. You have to get a visa. I've spoken about this before. So I have to get a visa to go there. And as someone who has got a visa for every country in the world that needs a visa, not a lot of people can say that. Can I just say that it is very, very difficult to get an American visa. Like, it is insanely difficult. Probably the most difficult visa, in fact, the most difficult visa I've ever had to get. Not just in terms of the £155.80 that it cost to apply for this visa, which you don't get back if you don't get the visa. You also have to have an appointment, a face-to-face appointment down in London at the embassy. So that's another 150 quid for the train to get down to London, and also accommodation costs, because all these appointments are always in the morning. They don't have them in the afternoon, so people from other parts of the country can get to them for the afternoon. No, they've got to be, I think the first appointment's like at 7:30 in the morning. Anyway, so the waiting list to get an appointment. I checked it, it was 144 working days. When I actually applied for the visa, that had come down to 2 months. So I have to wait till October the 15th in order to have an appointment to see if I can get into America. And then it can be up to 6 months before you actually get your visa, which I don't understand. What, do they keep your passport for 6 months? I mean, what? So you can't travel anywhere for 6 months while you've overstayed in America? It's simply because I have been to, not just September 1990, you've got to put the actual day that you started. You've got to tell them everything about your parents. You've got to tell them where you've worked for the last X many years. You've got to give them so much information. And their website hasn't been updated in terms of the interface since 1999. It is just awful on every level. And it times out constantly. Like every 30 seconds it'll time out. So if you go off to find the postcode of your old school that you attended 30 years ago on Google on a separate window, and then go back to your application, you better have made sure that you press save before you went over, because it's going to kick you out, and you're going to have to log in again with your mum's maiden name, your code that you've got that I had to enter about 17 times to get back in, your passport number, etc. The whole process took over 3 hours. For me, for someone who, you've got to list all the countries you've been to in the last 5 years as well. And it's not like you can just type them in. It's a drop-down list that you can't just tick. You've got to select from the list the country, France, and then you've got to, I missed Ireland off. Oh, well, never mind. You got to like put France there, and then you've got to put add another. You press that, and then another drop-down box appears, and you've got to scroll through all the countries in the world, or 200 countries in the world, and also like Wallis and Futuna Islands on there as well in the Pacific Ocean, both of which I've been to, but not relevant in this case. And find the next one, and you've got to do that for every country you've been to for the last 5 years. My God. Anyway, the whole process was an absolute nightmare, but I could do it from anywhere in the world. This is my point, okay? And you knew I was coming to a point. Like, this was a nightmare process. It cost loads of money. It was a nightmare. They'll probably say no, but I didn't have to take a small boat across the Atlantic in order to step foot on American soil in order to apply. But the way they make it in this country is that you have to step foot on the soil to apply. You can't just do it from anywhere in the world. So even the most difficult visa for me to get as a British person is a lot easier than just asking for asylum in a given country, in this country in particular. But yeah, there you go. Suella Braverman. Right, I'm going to get really into your chat now. Thank you very much to Ivan Ambrose, first of all, for that wonderful super chat. Thank you very much for the 20 quid. Thank you, sir. You're very kind. Tory chairman Richard Fuller has said, in less than 100 days, Labour have become engulfed in sleaze. Literally, who on earth does he think he is? Double standards, hypocrisy, and being narcissistic doesn't come close. Yes. Well, I mean, that's the whole... Come on, that's the whole MO, isn't it, of the Tory party? It's just sleaze and hypocrisy. You know, do as I say, not what I do. But thank you very much for the super chat. November the 5th, got Forks masks all around. Yeah, Lucy Willis, it's very weird. Like, we had our election on July the 4th, and they're having their election on November the 5th. We swapped holidays. We've got Johnny saying religion is a personal thing. Leave the almighty at home. Anyone else buffering? Oh dear, are we buffering? Oh jeez, we've lost some frames. Sorry, I'm very sorry about that. What I'll do is I will knock down the I'll go into my settings and I'll turn the output stream down a bit. There you go. So I'm going to apply that, and then okay, so it should be a little bit better. I'm actually not at home. Again, we're out in Yorkshire at the moment. We're having a family holiday in Yorkshire, so I've taken over our little room in our little B&B, put up a green screen behind me on the curtain, kicked everyone else out the room. They've all gone for a swim, and I hear you but see you not. Sorry, mate. Now getting about 1 frame per second video. Oh, that's no good. Right, it's getting better now. Sorry, when I'm at home, I am actually using a cable to plug into the internet. So I'm not relying on Wi-Fi, which The Wi-Fi signal can be disrupted by many things: drones, microwaves. They all use the same hertz, don't they? It's very annoying. France, greetings from Nantes. Hello, Colin, who's in Nantes. Let's be honest, selecting more than a couple of countries is not that common. It's okay now, Graham. Well, Svax. Well, I had to put Ukraine down, didn't I? And Poland and Czech Republic and Germany and Luxembourg and France, just from a trip that I took to Ukraine overland. I mean, that's a lot of countries. Belgium and Holland as well. Netherlands, sorry. Is it just me, or does Cruella look like a nastier version of Rita Repulsa from Power Rangers? I think she looks like Zelda from the Terrorhawks. If you were doing a rap about America for a moment, oh, cool. It's all good now. Beautiful, in fact. Oh, thank you, Liam. Should we just have a quick look at the papers? Should we have a look at the papers? Obviously, Sven-Göran Eriksson has died, which is sad. 76 years old. We've got Harry on the front cover of the Mail, and Meghan looking gorgeous, and so is Meghan. And military training cut back to fund pay rises, 400 million shortfall forces MOD to axe some exercises and make troops pretend to shoot. This is the result of 14 years of Tory cuts to the military. Police have given up on punishing shoplifters, so shoplifting has now become decriminalised in this country, thanks to the fact that the Tories cut 20,000 police officers while they were in charge of the country, even though the population was increasing and we needed those police officers. Now they've put in 20,000 new police officers and bragged about it, even though they just replaced the old ones, the experienced ones, the properly vetted ones, with people who aren't experienced and haven't been vetted properly. So there's a lot of Nazis and things. And killers, by the looks of things. Well, at least one. Sven-Göran Eriksson dominates the front cover of the Telegraph and the Guardian. Oasis reunion on the front cover of the Guardian there. Violent criminals allowed just to say sorry. Sex offenders among thousands with no record after police community resolutions. Again, this is because of Tory cuts to the justice system. If you read The Secret Barrister's book, it is absolutely horrifying what the Tories have done to the legal system. Legal aid is just a thing of the past now. Only rich people can afford to defend themselves in court. Up on slap suits, where you just basically get someone to shut up by threatening to sue them. You can do that if you're rich. Lives packed up into bags as Russians close in on the city of Pokrovsk. Okay, good. Whatever. That's all going on in Ukraine at the moment. I don't think the Russians are going to do very well out of this. I mean, they might be advancing in some places in Ukraine, but the reality is that they were having their arse handed to them by the fact that Ukrainians have invaded the Kursk region of Russia, taken shitloads of POWs, and like the latest POW swap, it was like, I don't know, 26 Ukrainians got released in return for like 5 Russians. I mean, think of the power dynamics there. I mean, come on. It's not looking good. Not looking good for old Putin. But, you know, he hasn't surrounded himself by violent psychopaths, so I'm sure he'll be fine. Farage warns of shocks to come in Labour budget. I don't give a shit what Farage thinks. Daily Mirror there. Don't be sorry, smile. It's been fantastic. As Sven-Göran Eriksson dies at the age of 76. Safety fears at British care giant owned by Kuwait. Despite 500 million in taxpayer cash. It's amazing how much the taxpayer pays foreign companies to, flout health and safety in this country. They pay a lot. End of the world warning by those cheery AI boffins. Our last chance to stop psycho robot killer robots. Is it? Okay. And don't be sorry, smile. It's been fantastic. That's from Sven-Göran Eriksson again in the Metro. And then there's a story in the Financial Times as top defence contractors poised for $52 billion cash bonanza as orders soar. So defence contractors means weapons manufacturers, essentially. So there you go. That's all the papers. That's what the papers have to say. Oh, the intro's just come back on. That's not supposed to happen. And there's a super chat animation. There you go. Even though there's no super chat. I'll just jump back into the chat for the moment. YouTube decided to download some recommended videos which swallow my bandwidth. Graham, what made you decide to travel without flying? Is it a fear or just something to do or something else? it's not. Well, it wasn't a fear. I'm not scared of flying. I've, I've done skydiving. I wanted to prove it was possible to fly, to travel without flying. I wanted to raise money for the charity Water Aid. I wanted to do it as in, like, people have been to every country in the world before. I actually met one of the guys, Kashi Samada, who's an Indian guy, who's one of the first people to actually manage to officially go to every country in the world. And I wanted to do it a different way. I was influenced by Michael Palin's Around the World in 80 Days. I love that because it was so interesting having to find those different ways of travel. Like he went from the United Arab Emirates to India or Pakistan on a dhow, which is like an old wooden ship. And I don't know if anyone remembers the TV show, but I'm sure if you remember the TV show, you remember the bit where he got very ill on that dhow. And I watched that and I was like, that's what I want to do. There was very much also a green message in that it was possible to travel to these far-flung places without getting on a plane. And I didn't want to be the guy who turns up in Tuvalu or Kiribati, which are countries that are critically endangered with rising tides because of the rising sea levels because of climate change. Turning up on a plane. But I turned up on cargo ships, which burn a lot of oil, like bunker oil. It's not the most environmentally friendly way of getting these places. Some places I got to on sailboats, to be fair, in the Caribbean, but the Pacific is a bit big for getting places on a sailboat. I think if I was trying to do it on a sailboat, I'll still be doing it today, to this very day. But yeah, it was a really fun adventure. And I'm really, really glad I did it. So, there were lots of reasons, but it wasn't because I was scared of flying. And I hope to inspire people. I hope to inspire people to get around the world without flying because it was fun. And not make, the destination, the whole thing, make the journey part of the adventure, make it part of the holiday. But put me on an overnight trains. I love, it's like sleeper trains are the greatest invention in the world. We need more of them. And Lucy says it's only people who are policing shoplifters the only people who are policing shoplifters are shop workers like me, says Lucy. Yeah, exactly, Lucy. It's been decriminalised. Same with sexual assault, unfortunately. It's horrible to say, but it has. It's become effectively decriminalised. Only 1 in 100 people who are accused of sexual assault are actually seeing any kind of sentence. 1 in 100. That's a horrific number. Burglaries? Do burglars get caught anymore? No, they don't. Like, there's so much crime going on in our communities because the criminals know they can get away with it. I mean, the fact that you saw these rioters going out and attacking the police, that just showed how empowered they felt they were. They were streaming it on the internet, not worrying about the consequences. Obviously, a lot of them have seen consequences since, but they weren't scared of the consequences when they did it because they didn't think that it was much of a deal, Graham warns more bullshit coming from Farage. Yeah, well, there you go. Support to our Ukrainian badgers out there. They're cleaning bunker oil up, says Patrick McCarthy. If only there was some way of getting across the sea by harnessing the power of the wind. Some futuristic technology that would allow us to take the wind and use that to propel a heavy ship through the water. If only. Do it properly next time, Graham. Get a balloon. Well, in the original book of Around the World in 8 Days, I don't think he takes a balloon. I don't think that's in the book. I think that's been in every movie and TV adaptation. He gets in a balloon, but I honestly don't think it's in the book. Someone remind me. It's a very, very long time ago that I read the book. It was a great TV show. Palin was brilliant. I'm sure you were brilliant too. Says Viv. Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you. It's an upside down world, says Leon Scott. It is indeed. Someone I know just got out of jail for shoplifting. That's how they got out of jail. So they shoplifted their way out of jail. Patrick, the rise of Dark Fleet throws Enviro stuff out of the window. The Rise of the Dark Fleet. What? This sounds like a Star Wars reference. I don't know. But yes, Who else have we got? We got Captain Bart Roberts there putting in some badgers. Badger. Banton says, Graham Hughes, Intel says we will become a world without monetary system eventually. What do you think of this? How will it work? Whatever it is. I think there'll always be a monetary system. I find it very interesting. People go, oh no, you shouldn't use contact cards because you end up losing money. And I thought I'd probably do a video on this. I'm like, actually, cash is bloody useless. If you run a shop, right, and I know you've got to pay a little bit of money for every time someone uses their card, right? However, if you take coins, you end up with bags and bags of coins that you can't do anything with. You can't give them to your customers because you don't have enough customers to justify that level of coinage. So you have to take them to the bank. And I don't know about you, right? But things about banks, right? First of all, half the banks are closed down now. Secondly, they never put banks anywhere where it's easy to park outside the bank. They always put like the bank on double yellows for some reason. There's always double yellows around the bank, around the cash machine, double yellows, bollards, can't park there. Guess it's to stop van raiders. I don't know. Right. So you've got to park like several streets away. You've got to pay for parking, generally. 99 times out of 100, you've got to pay for the bloody parking to get to the bank. Then you've got to walk to the bank and carrying these stacks of coins and then dump them on the counter and say, can you count these coins? And they've got to put them on the machine and weigh them and count them and everything. Oh, you've got to wait in the queue. And then eventually, an hour later, you get back to the shop. So you've wasted an hour of your time, okay? Dealing with cash. You have wasted 1 hour a week of your time going to the freaking bank. And it's not like the banks are open during, non-work hours. It's not like you can do it at other times. I guess there's money cash drop machines, but don't they only work for notes, I guess? I don't know. You still got to make the journey. You still got to go to the bank. You still got to pay for parking. You still got to use your time that you could be using in your shop selling stuff. You've got to pay someone else to sell stuff while you're away. I don't know. I just think that excuse for not using your card of like, hey, no, if you use cash, then the place gets to keep the money and it's all good. It's like, no, that's not really living in the real world. Anyway, no one complained about people using checks, did they? Oh, God, you're not going to pay by a check, are you? Because you've got to pay them into a bank, don't you? Well, you don't anymore. You just take a picture of them in your phone. You can't take a picture of money on your phone and pay it into your bank. So actually, you're better off using a check than cash, strangely enough. But then, obviously, the bank will probably take a cut of that as well. Sorry, that went completely off topic. Duke Vengeance, I suppose the problem is the wind can't propel such large tonnage across the sea very quickly, although I think France are trying a new ship that is partially wind-powered. Well, yes, they are. I know CMA-CGM have been talking about this for a long time. But the ships going around the world at the moment are all on a go slow. Fascinatingly enough, they're all going slower than they need to A, save fuel, because fuel costs more, but B, it's like, it doesn't make much of a difference, really, in just general, whether it takes you 6 weeks to get somewhere or 7 weeks to get there. It's fine. Everything's fine. And the thing is, if you give yourself more time, you can plan better for problems along the way. So, for instance, one of the ships I was on, it was a CMA-CGM Turquoise, I think, that I took up the Red Sea. So I took this from Djibouti, the port of Djibouti, in Djibouti, which is the best name for a country ever. Djibouti and Azerbaijan, my favourite names for countries. I got on a ship there and we went to Saudi Arabia and then we went up to Suez. Now, the Suez Canal, I got off at Suez, but the Suez Canal, the ship was going to go through the Suez Canal. However, it was a day late because it had there'd been a storm. And it couldn't leave port. It had to go around the storm, whatever. So it had put a lot of time on its route, and it was a day late getting to Suez. Now, to go through the Suez Canal, you have to pay a pilot. You have to pay for pilotage. You have to pay for routes, and you have to pay for pilotage. So you have to have a local pilot come onto your ship and pilot you through the canal. Same thing happens in the Panama Canal, and also if you're going through into any port, along any canal, through the Great Barrier Reef in Australia, you will need a pilot on the ship, a local pilot. So because they were 1 day late, they effectively got fined. They had to pay an extra $27,000 on top of what they've already paid to go through the canal because they were 1 day late. So it makes sense to go slow And then if you need to, you can speed up and get to places on time, because if you're late on those critical pinch points, getting through the Panama Canal, the Suez Canal, whatever, or getting into a port when, you need there to be a berth for you to be able to get into that port, it's no good sitting out on the water on the horizon for 6 weeks waiting to come alongside, which a lot of ships have to do in many countries. It makes sense to go slow. Just go slow. That's fine. You don't have to go at 20 knots. Go at 10. Anyway, right. So, which is like 10 miles an hour, by the way. They're so slow. Once AI progresses to AGI, evolutionary, eventually ASI, I don't know what they stand for, Nick, sorry. Most human work will be automated. The humanoid robotic revolution is about to happen, leading to an endless supply of cheap 24/7 labour. Well, there you go. Stephanie Wilson says, I use cash to ensure people cannot trace my payments, though my large payments are online. Viv Burgess says, my partner has been advocating wind power for ships for a long time. He wrote an eco-fiction book, but only self-published online. New materials should improve wind power. Indeed. I mean, you could have a kite which propels your ship forward to an extent, but you can also have wind turbines which are producing electricity for the ship. The big problem is like the weight of the batteries. If you wanted a fully electric ship, the weight of the batteries would be ridiculous. But ships can take a lot of weight. Brew Badger, the electric show with the actor of Crichton from Red Dwarf, Robert Llewellyn, they covered a wind and solar power cargo ship prototype. It's coming in Denmark/Norway area. Terence Tibbs says £24.99. Thank you. That evergreen picture of it stuck was amazing. Yeah. I can guess why Djibouti, but why Azerbaijan is your favourite? Well, Sfax, I'm glad you asked. It's because it sounds like something that you'd say after doing a magic trick. Do you know what I mean? You'd be like, da-da-da-da-da-da, Azerbaijan. Do you know what I mean? It just sounds good. I just like it. I just like the way it sounds. It's just cool. It's just cool in a way that Chad isn't. Sorry, Chad. Even though, fun fact, Chad starts with a T. It does, Starts with a T. It's T-C-H-A-D. That's how you spell Chad. Anyway, Terence Tibbs, between US $400,000 and $7,000 per vessel. Wow. That's expensive. What was I going to say? Also, just to go back to the American views the thing. Sometimes on the drop-down box, your country is listed as the United Kingdom. Sometimes it's United Kingdom. So it's under T or under U. Sometimes it's UK. Sometimes it's Great Britain. Sometimes it's Britain. For the American embassy, it flitted between the United Kingdom. And when you had to pick the place where you went for your interview, it wasn't the United Kingdom. That wasn't on the list. It was down as England. So I had to find England on the list under E. The list of every country in the world. Yeah. Fun. Can we just agree on one name? Britain, the UK, England. Could we just have one name? Just one. How about that? Keep the Scottish people happy. Just call them Scotland. Right. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to get off now. Phil will be back in the morning for Morning Brew. I'll be back on Thursday because Phil is getting married. So if you want to send Phil great best wishes tomorrow, you are very welcome to do so. But until then, I'll say thank you so much for watching. Thanks for the super chats. And until next time, I'll say, give us a like on the way out. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.